Jim Morrison never hid his brutally honest opinions, especially about other iconic bands. In legendary bands Jim Morrison hates the most, we'll dive into Morrison's shocking critiques, revealing why some of music's biggest legends faced his wrath. Stick around. Some of these targets might surprise even die-hard Doors fans. Number 1. The Beatles. Jim Morrison's disdain for the Beatles may seem surprising given their universal acclaim, but Morrison saw the Fab Four through a different lens. While the Beatles transformed pop music into a cultural phenomenon with catchy melodies and polished production, Morrison openly criticized their music for what he perceived as overly commercial and mainstream appeal. He believed true artistic expression should resist the pull of commercialization and mass consumption. Morrison famously remarked during an interview, "The Beatles songs are cute, but they lack soul and depth. They're made to sell, not to feel." He also disapproved of their clean, well-groomed image, asserting that rock music should disrupt the status quo rather than comfortably sit within it. Morrison's confrontation with mainstream pop was emblematic of his broader philosophy, which emphasized authenticity, rebellion, and raw emotion over polished perfection. For Morrison, music wasn't about pleasing crowds. It was about shaking listeners awake. His criticism extended beyond mere interviews. On stage, Morrison often used sarcasm to reference the Beatles, sometimes mockingly humming their tunes between songs as a satirical gesture. This public display of disdain underscored his belief that artistic authenticity mattered far more than commercial success. The actionable takeaway from Morrison's criticism of the Beatles is clear. Genuine artistry demands honesty and depth over popularity and sales figures. In Morrison's eyes, staying true to one's creative instincts was non-negotiable, even if it meant clashing with universally loved icons. Number 2. The Beach Boys. At first glance, one might wonder why Jim Morrison would take issue with a band as seemingly harmless as the Beach Boys. Known globally for their upbeat, sunny melodies and harmonies that evoked images of carefree California summers, the Beach Boys represented everything Morrison disliked about the idealized American dream portrayed in music. Morrison viewed the Beach Boys' music as an escape from reality, branding their songs as manufactured happiness, designed to distract listeners from genuine struggles and societal issues. Their pristine vocals and surf-themed lyrics stood in stark contrast to the gritty realism and darker themes Morrison explored with the Doors. He firmly believed that music needed to reflect true human experiences, including suffering, fear, and the darker edges of society, rather than glossing over them with superficial optimism. On multiple occasions, Morrison publicly expressed irritation at the Beach Boys' perceived artificiality. During interviews and live performances, he would sarcastically reference their hits, labeling them as sugar-coated illusions, implying that the public deserved something deeper and more substantial from their artists. Morrison's core criticism was that the Beach Boys' music was detached from authentic human experiences. To him, their artistry represented a dangerous form of escapism that trivialized life's complexities and hardships. He challenged artists everywhere to confront rather than avoid uncomfortable truths. The essential lesson from Morrison's critique of the Beach Boys is evident. Music must face reality head-on rather than evade it. True artists use their platform to confront difficult truths, even when they're uncomfortable, rather than creating an artificial, utopian soundscape. Morrison insisted that authentic art should challenge listeners rather than placate them with fantasies. Number 3. Jefferson Airplane. Morrison openly mocked Jefferson Airplane's bright, idealistic songs. To him, their cheerful melodies and flower child messages lacked substance. In his view, true art needed to grapple deeply with life's complexities, not gloss over them with superficial positivity. He once sharply criticized the band's famous anthem, "Somebody to Love," dismissing it as plastic optimism. But Morrison's contempt wasn't merely philosophical, it was personal. In a 1967 backstage encounter at the Fillmore Auditorium, Morrison reportedly confronted Airplane's lead singer Grace Slick, accusing her band of perpetuating unrealistic ideals that distracted youth from genuine introspection. Slick later recounted the awkwardness of the confrontation, describing Morrison as intense, troubled, and fascinatingly hostile. Morrison's rejection of Jefferson Airplane is a lesson in artistic authenticity. He insisted that music should be raw, honest, and even uncomfortable, reflecting real human experiences rather than idealistic fantasies. He believed the world's harsh realities demanded brutally truthful expression, not escapism. For aspiring musicians and creators today, Morrison's criticism poses a challenging question: should art confront or comfort? While Jefferson Airplane inspired countless fans through their hopeful energy, Morrison's criticism suggests that deeper cultural impact often comes from challenging listeners, forcing them to question, reflect, and ultimately grow. Number 4. Grateful Dead. Despite the widespread popularity and revered cult following of the Grateful Dead, Morrison found their extended jams tiresome and directionless. Their improvisational style, beloved for creating unique, spontaneous musical journeys, was to him just unstructured noise. After attending a Dead concert in Los Angeles in 1969, Morrison reportedly stormed out midway, loudly grumbling that their performance was endlessly pointless. This wasn't just a disagreement about musical style. It reflected a deeper philosophical divide. Morrison believed that artistry required a balance between freedom and structure, while improvisation offered spontaneity. It needed boundaries to channel emotional power effectively. The Dead's sprawling performances, which could last hours without a clear narrative arc, deeply frustrated Morrison's sense of artistic discipline. In interviews, he criticized the band's open-ended approach as self-indulgent, arguing it disconnected performers from the audience. Morrison once stated, "Music is communication, and communication demands intention. Aimless wandering is silence disguised as sound." Today, Morrison's critique is particularly relevant to artists and content creators. Freedom without direction often results in diluted creativity, diminishing emotional impact and clarity of message. The lesson from Morrison's encounter with the Dead is clear. Effective storytelling, whether through music, writing, or visual arts, demands disciplined intention. Improvisation can enhance creativity, but without deliberate focus, it risks alienating audiences. 5. The Monkees. To Morrison, the Monkees represented everything wrong with the music industry: corporate puppetry, mass commercialization, and artistic dishonesty. Created explicitly for television and marketed heavily to teenagers, the band topped charts, sold millions of albums, and drew screaming crowds, all while barely writing their own songs or playing instruments in their early days. Jim Morrison openly mocked them as puppets of corporate America. In interviews, he sarcastically referred to them as plastic pop idols, highlighting his disdain for their artificial creation and scripted personas. His resentment wasn't merely jealousy of their commercial success. Morrison genuinely felt their manufactured image undermined music's deeper purpose, authentic self-expression. During a radio appearance in 1968, Morrison bluntly stated, "The Monkees aren't musicians, they're actors. Music is sacred. It deserves honesty, not exploitation." This attack ignited controversy, but resonated with many fans who craved authenticity amid an increasingly commercialized music landscape. For artists today, Morrison's distaste for the Monkees offers valuable insights. Audiences seek connection, authenticity, and honesty, particularly in an era overflowing with manufactured personas and contrived trends. The enduring careers and reputations belong to those willing to reveal their true selves, refusing to compromise authenticity for short-term commercial gain. 6. Led Zeppelin. On the surface, Jim Morrison and Led Zeppelin seem perfectly aligned, both charismatic, controversial rock icons, pushing musical boundaries in the late 60s and early 70s. Yet beneath the surface lay a surprising animosity. While Zeppelin's bombastic performances and larger-than-life stage presence won global acclaim, Morrison saw their elaborate theatrics and heavy riffs as empty spectacle rather than genuine artistic expression. He accused Led Zeppelin of prioritizing style over substance, criticizing frontman Robert Plant for what Morrison called exaggerated showmanship. During an infamous moment backstage at a shared venue in 1969, Morrison allegedly confronted Plant directly, sarcastically praising him for turning rock into a circus act. Morrison believed that genuine artistry required emotional vulnerability, subtlety, and intellectual depth, qualities he felt Zeppelin sacrificed in favor of flashy performances and mass appeal. But Morrison's criticism went deeper than mere musical preference. He worried that Zeppelin's emphasis on theatrical excess threatened to diminish rock music's emotional sincerity. Morrison once confided to his Doors bandmate Ray Manzarek that Zeppelin's popularity reflected society's superficial tastes, lamenting, "If audiences prefer spectacle over substance, art is doomed." Yet, in retrospect, Morrison's criticism also reveals his own struggle with fame, identity, and artistic integrity. His disdain for Led Zeppelin's mass appeal masked deeper insecurities about the Doors' commercial compromises. Ironically, both bands shaped rock history profoundly, but Morrison's criticisms still hold valuable lessons. For artists, the takeaway is clear. While entertainment value matters, lasting art demands emotional honesty and meaningful connection. Audiences may initially flock to spectacle, but they stay for sincerity and depth. 7. Iron Butterfly. Imagine the psychedelic explosion of the late 60s. Iron Butterfly stood tall with their unforgettable track, In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida. Yet, despite their shared psychedelic heritage, Jim Morrison couldn't hide his disdain for their approach. Morrison famously mocked the repetitive structure of their legendary 17-minute song, publicly dismissing it as an indulgent and hollow attempt at art. According to Morrison, true psychedelia wasn't merely an endless loop of chords and rhythms, but rather an exploration into profound emotional and philosophical depths. Iron Butterfly represented everything Morrison saw as superficial in music, flash without genuine substance. While the Doors frontman sought transcendental connections and provocative insights through his performances, he considered Iron Butterfly's work more akin to a drawn-out circus act designed only for entertainment. Morrison's outspoken views serve as a powerful reminder that real artistry involves meaningful exploration, not just catchy loops. Takeaway: great music shouldn't merely hypnotize listeners. It should elevate their consciousness and challenge their perceptions. 8. The Rolling Stones. Picture this: two giants of rock, the Doors and the Rolling Stones, both dominating stages worldwide. Despite their comparable fame, Jim Morrison openly criticized Mick Jagger and his bandmates. Morrison viewed Jagger's exaggerated performances as overly theatrical, emphasizing image rather than musical authenticity. This sharp critique didn't stem from envy. Rather, it revealed Morrison's uncompromising stance on artistic integrity. The Doors singer publicly expressed his disdain for what he saw as Jagger's deliberate pandering to the audience, suggesting the Stones prioritized spectacle over genuine emotional connection. Morrison believed rock music had a higher calling than mere entertainment. It was supposed to awaken the audience, provoke thought, and inspire real change. Morrison's intense critiques of the Rolling Stones emphasize an essential lesson. While showmanship draws crowds, lasting impact requires authenticity and depth. Genuine artistry resonates deeply with audiences, enduring beyond temporary fame. 9. The Byrds. In a memorable confrontation of musical philosophies, Jim Morrison openly challenged the Byrds' creative authenticity. The Byrds, who achieved massive success blending folk melodies with rock sensibilities, found themselves squarely in Morrison's crosshairs. Morrison criticized them for opportunistically chasing musical trends, accusing them of riding Bob Dylan's coattails rather than carving their unique artistic path. To Morrison, originality wasn't optional, it was vital. In interviews, he repeatedly voiced disappointment with bands he felt compromised their identity to achieve commercial success. The Byrds, despite their undeniable talent, symbolized for Morrison the dangers of artistic compromise. He believed passionately that music must come from personal vision, not calculated strategy. The real-world impact of Morrison's beliefs remains strikingly relevant today. Artists everywhere can take Morrison's critique of the Byrds as actionable advice. Never sacrifice authenticity for short-lived popularity. Originality remains the key to artistic legacy, transcending fleeting trends and resonating across generations. Envision the virtuoso trio of Eric Clapton, Ginger Baker, and Jack Bruce, Cream, a band praised globally for their technical brilliance. Yet, Jim Morrison, known for his rebellious and provocative views, didn't spare them from his critical judgment. Morrison openly questioned their approach, dismissing Cream as overly technical, prioritizing musical complexity at the expense of emotional resonance. While fans celebrated Cream's mastery of instruments and lengthy, technically intricate jams, Morrison felt they missed the essence of true musical artistry, emotional connection. He argued passionately that music shouldn't be an exhibition of skill alone. It should be an emotional journey, deeply felt and profoundly communicated. Morrison's critique resonates today, offering profound advice to modern musicians. Technical skills, while impressive, should always serve emotional expression. Real artistry isn't measured merely by complexity, but by its ability to stir profound emotions and evoke genuine human experiences. Morrison's blunt dismissal of Cream reminds us of this enduring truth. The best music moves hearts, not just impresses minds. That's the story behind Jim Morrison's brutal honesty toward iconic bands. Which critique surprised you most? Comment below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. We've got even more legendary rock revelations coming your way. Catch you in the next one.